President Cyril Ramaphosa has committed himself to serving the country to bring about a better future for all its citizens. In his acceptance speech after taking the oath of Loftus Versfeld Stadium, Ramaphosa said South Africans wanted action, not just words and promises. President Ramaphosa also emphasized the importance of African unity and to have a corrupt-free South Africa.
Today we reaffirm our determination to work with our sisters and brothers across the continent to realize the African Union's vision of Agenda 2063, to build the Africa that all Africans want, to forge a free trade area that stretches from Cape Town to Cairo, bringing growth and opportunity to all African countries, to silence the guns and let peace and harmony reign. Today, we declare that our progress as South Africa in all our endeavors depends on and cannot be separated from the onward march of our beloved continent, Africa. Let us forge a compact, not merely as business and labor, not as those who govern and those who are governed, but as citizens and patriots of this great nation, free and equal and resolute. Let us forge a compact for growth and economic opportunity, for productive lands and viable communities, for knowledge, innovation, and for services that are affordable, accessible, and sustainable. Let us also forge a compact of an efficient, capable, and ethical state, a state that is free from corruption, for companies that generate social value and propel human development, and for elected officials and public servants who faithfully serve no other cause than the cause of our people.
Now, to unpack the President's inaugural speech, I'm now joined live in the studio by Dr. Mpofu from the Center for Diversity Studies at the Wits University. He's a specialist in African issues. Dr. Mpofu, a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to the Globe.
Good evening, Simba.
First of all, what are your impressions of the President's inaugural speech today?
It's a speech that is rich in a lot of symbolism, in a lot of ritual, and also a lot of ceremony. And because the event itself, this is Africa Day, and Africa was at the center of everything. And that makes it quite a central statement which deserves a lot of focus as to what it means beyond South Africa as a polity, an economy, and a country in the global South.
Okay.
It's quite a strategic and also a very critical moment.
Right. Yeah. Do you get the sense that he will have it easy throughout his 5-year term? I mean, looking at the way he was received in Parliament when he took up, when he was elected in Parliament, he was warmly received by most of the political parties. And even when he assumed the presidency of the ANC back in 2017, there was much fanfare over his presidency. Do you get the sense that he will have it easy throughout the next 5 years?
Normally in politics, especially real politics, as in hard-nosed politics, wherever you see people happy and everything looking easy, it serves to be a rhetoric that conceals rather than reveal the complexities, the dilemmas, the paradoxes, and the ironies that are at play on the ground. President Cyril Ramaphosa is a man that is sitting at an intersection of many complexities that do not regard only the ANC as a liberation movement and a political party, or South Africa as a polity and an economy in the global South party. The entire global South, the continent of Africa and the region. So it's much more deeper, wider and higher than what it looks There are many more weighty issues that are at play than just the appearances. Yeah. Even this beautiful and powerful inauguration ceremony, with all the rituals and the symbolisms, the ceremonies, it's beautiful to see, but a lot that matters is at play than what meets the eye and what reaches the ear.
What is it that matters that we should focus on more?
The ANC is arguably the oldest liberation movement in Africa. Is at a situation where it must maintain the example that liberation movements are exactly that, which is liberation movements.
Yes.
Or they are just there to betray the cause and the name that they own. So what is here is looking at the ANC as just a metaphor of all liberation movements in Africa, and by extension the Global South, is do you sink in unity by saving yourselves, protecting yourselves from property, from censure, or do you vulnerably offer yourself to property and reform, change, and surrender yourselves to what the future demands? Because there's a younger generation of political activists, intellectuals, social activists that demand change and that do not want to care about what happened in the past, but want to see the fruits, want to see the results, and want to see the developments that must come with what these movements have promised.
And having said that, Dr. Mpofu, I mean, these liberation movements, they now thrive on the ticket of having brought about liberation to their respective countries on the continent. I mean, there's the ZANU-PF, for instance, there's the ANC here in South Africa. Do you think these liberation movements are still relevant today? I mean, futuristically looking, do they still have a place in modern day politics?
It's exactly that, because they are called liberation movements. The ANC being the oldest amongst them. But if you talk to Africans now, the youth amongst them, the agitated amongst them, they have not witnessed liberation, which empirically means that the decolonization of these countries, which is their political independence, did not actually lead to liberation. So these liberation movements, represented principally by the ANC itself and in actuality, have to prove that they really stand for liberation. Because there are movements, there are groupings that are now claiming to be fighting for liberation. So
are you insinuating that the people still need to be liberated from the liberators?
Definitely. The beautiful flags that you witness in Africa, the melodious national anthems and powerful and ritualistic and ceremonial events that we witnessed today at Loftus are exactly that, the rhetoric of liberation, not the actuality of liberation. And many of the people, the masses, the genuine owners of the liberation were not at Loftus, were not even watching a television set that showed them what happened there. So the people that must confirm, that must witness the liberation, were not even represented in the ceremony, the ritual and the event that we witnessed today, which happened on Africa Day with many African heads of state being available and everyone. So it's appearing to be an elite event and encounter which must still prove itself in the mass of the peoples of Africa.
I mean, we've seen instances of youth apathy, not just in South Africa, but in various parts of the continent, who don't want to actively participate in the politics that will shape their own destiny, that will shape their own lives. And these liberation movements are only appealing to what are called the elderly people who've been participating in the liberation of their country. So do you think that these liberation movements will stand the test of time? They will forever be there?
The liberation movements are in challenge. They are all, in Africa, is represented by the ANC, suffering a crisis of acceptability, credibility, and legitimacy. And it's not only about the young people. If you look at the myth of democracy itself, the people that vote these presidents of ours, like our own Cyril Ramaphosa, are a pathetic minority compared to the people that do not even vote at all, that do not participate in the political processes. So you have majorities that are really minorities when it comes to statistics. So it's quite a problematic development in that what we claim to be a majority that has voted a certain party or movement is actually a minority compared to the people that occupy the territories and the entities that are the countries and the nations that we talk about.
Yeah.
Because there are fewer people who vote and actively participate in politics than they occupy these countries.
Yeah.
But the people that govern must govern beyond the perimeters of the numbers of the people that voted.
Yes.
So democracy itself, party democracy, is in crisis because it doesn't reflect, it serves to conceal the picture of who are the governed,
Yes.
who are the people that wish to be saved.
Yes.
So the challenges of such figures and personalities as Ramaphosa and entities as the ANC and the whole democratic dispensation in South Africa is that, are you real? Are you for sure? And are you doing what you are claiming to be doing, or is it rhetoric that hides the painful actualities that people of Africa and the global south are going through?
Yeah. Just now going back to the inauguration today. I mean, it's the first time that it's held at the Loftus Festival Stadium, as it was traditionally held at the Union Building. So do you think that the place achieved its intended goals, that of taking the event to the people?
Yeah, I don't know if there is a place or there are goals, but it was an attempt to talk to the world at first. It was an attempt to reach out to the region. It was also an attempt to reach out to the grassroots in Mzansi. And once an attempt wants to attend to so many constituencies at once, it remains exactly that, an attempt, and it can never be an achievement. But this event was rich in symbolism, in ceremony, in ritual. I mean, there were gadgets there that were flying, gadgets of peace, gadgets of war, and performances of unity, performances of diversity, and performances of love and everything. But does this reach out to the ordinary water drinker and ordinary bread eater in South Africa first and in the global south next? The question remains hanging because people are asking questions. Where is our liberation? Political independence did not translate to liberation. I mean, people still do not have access to the resources of life.
Yeah, I mean, by all accounts and standards, the event went very well, looking at the pomp and the ceremony and the glitz and the glamour that came with it. But I guess the honeymoon will soon be over for the president. I think it is over actually now, because he's expected to announce his new cabinet. And I think that is one very, very difficult task lying ahead of him.
Difficult does not even express what is happening, because it's an issue beyond the incumbent president. Is national, is continental, is regional, is global south, and is human. Because to these liberation movements prefer to sink in unity or rise in diversity. Mm-hmm. Because these liberation movements have been in the habit of saving cadres, saving comrades at the expense of rising true to the demands of nations, of regions, and of the human. So there comes, it's not even a Cyril Ramaphosa problem that you sacrifice that, you save that. It's a liberation movement, a challenge, and a human challenge in that, do you serve comrades or nations or regions? There comes a time where, in the benefit of liberation movements, cadres must carry their cross, including the incumbent President Cyril Ramaphosa. He must carry his cross. It's not going to be a picnic.
Oh, it's such a mammoth task.
It's a mammoth task. Yeah.
Dr. Mpofu, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That was Dr. William Mpofu at the Wits University. Well, he's a specialist on African issues. This is the Global SABC.